Hello, I'm Halloween Ottaway. I was dared to do that, by the way. Anyway, good to see you. Be back here again with another Wichita Postcard of the Week. And I just wanted to say or think about Wichita before all of these changes that have happened in the last 20 or 30 years. I'm 77 years old, born in 1943. I grew up on South Hillside in the 700 block south of Kellogg. And Kellogg was the main artery kind of going in and out of Wichita, for me anyway. There at Kellogg and Hillside, there were two gasoline stations. There was a Ralph Baum Valentine Diner on the northwest corner where you could get a hamburger for a quarter, and there was a drugstore on the other corner. But a lot of activity. My barber shop was just around the corner, and if I go the other way, west of Hillside, just a block away, was my elementary school, Sunnyside, where my sister and I both went to school all of those years from kindergarten through sixth grade. But Kellogg was just like a four-lane street. It's hard to think about it today because I don't know how many lanes, maybe four or five each way, and it's elevated and lots of activity. But I was a patrol boy and used to hold a sign out and stop traffic so children could go across to school there at Sunnyside. And so you just can't even imagine that today as you zoom along. But this is the time period that postcards were popular and were a lot more in use than they are today. But in any case, we're looking at Kellogg today and thinking about going east from Kellogg up the hill, and the cemetery was on the right, and on up to the top of the hill, which was Bluff. And that was where the very first, at Bluff in Kellogg, was where the very first Pizza Hut was started. And that's where all of that began. Across the street was Elizabeth's Restaurant. We'll talk about that another time. And then on several more blocks, just before you came to Oliver Street, there was a fire station built in an Art Deco, 2 or 3 stories high, a beautiful building. But it was on the north side of Kellogg, just before you got to Oliver. Oliver was kind of at the end of town. It was actually, I don't want to say a dirt street, but it was not paved like, of course, it is today. It had kind of a crushed a limestone on it, and so when cars would go over it, it would send up not smoke but dust, and it was amazing. I had two friends that lived south of Mount Vernon Street. They lived on Oliver, Chet and Eloise Parkhurst, and they were certainly remembered when it was unpaved and all of the dust and travelers, workers going back and forth to Boeing every day that way. So lots of changes over the time. But if we go back and stay there on Oliver and get off, if you're going there today, and you would just get off onto the frontage road on the south side of Kellogg and go east, and we're going to come to this first motel that I want to show you about. This is the Casa Mia Motel, and it was located at 5415 East Kellogg. This is on the south side of Kellogg. It was facing north, and right across the street was the Veterans Hospital, today called the Robert Dole VA Medical Center. But we always knew it as just the Vets Hospital, and it had a big campus with chain link fence in front, and just a few buildings with doctors' homes and everything to the east of it. But anyway, this Casa Mia motel, they were across from the VA hospital, and they said that it was 2 miles from the turnpike entrance. Well, that gives you a little clue as to how this would date. This would be in the late 1950s, I believe. In any case, the Casa Mia was there, and it was an interesting place. It was at kind of the edge of town, and so travelers would stop there before they got on into Wichita and be able to find a place to spend the night. There was the El Charro restaurant, also just down the street from the Casa Mia, and that was a famous Mexican place to eat, and lots of good food. I don't think my folks, we never went there because it was determined that our dad didn't like the spicy food, so we never set foot in El Charro restaurant, but I became a big fan of it much later, especially when I was in school and dating my wife later in graduate school. In any case, let's go on down the street from the Casa Mia just a little bit east, and here is the Kellogg Motor Court. It's at 7307 East Kellogg, and across the street from what is today Rusty X Ford Place. So you kind of get the idea. Kellogg is today elevated, and so the Kellogg Motor Court would have been down, at ground level. Look at this card and just look at the background. There's nothing else around it. It's just green grass everywhere. And if you would drive by there today, of course, it's all built up with homes and apartments that go on south to Lincoln Street and then on even further south. But this is a flat-roofed structure. They had 12 strictly modern units at air conditioned, steam heat in the winter, and they had Simmons inner spring mattresses with tile showers too. It was 1 mile east of Veterans Hospital, and they said there were strictly modern units. Pretty fancy. And this is on a linen paper postcard. You can almost see the texture of it on your screen, the texture of the linen paper. But it's nice to photograph because you don't get the glare like you do with photographic or other kinds of printing. So linen postcards are popular for that reason too. Just look out in the front to see. There's no swimming pool. They did have phones in the rooms, but there's a big umbrella out front where you might have a Coke maybe, or who knows. But it's fun to explore and to save and to look back at these early motel postcards and to think about them and to think about travel and to think about how everything has changed, certainly in my lifetime and perhaps in yours too. But thanks for coming today. We're almost to Halloween, and happy Halloween, everyone. I don't know that we're going to have any trick-or-treaters this year, and maybe we won't even do candy. I don't know at all, but lots of changes, and good luck to you, and I hope you've all voted, and if not, be sure to vote this coming Tuesday. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.